The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me on this fine Monday evening. It's unfortunate we're at this show with these circumstances. I wish we had a win to talk about tonight, but unfortunately that's just not the case. You just get the sense that eventually this thing was coming to a head, and eventually we all knew that eventually a loss was inevitable, but unfortunately, against a team like the Texans, we really didn't want it to be like this. So going forward, I really feel that everybody was venting yesterday, just trying to get all that off their chest. As frustrating as it was, we don't want to be the team that consistently loses to teams that don't really do much during the season. So long term, it feels like it's just another punch in the stomach. But I do want to give everybody some clarity and a little bit of hope going forward. It's very easy to get lost, especially when you follow the media and you feel like that everything is a simple nod or just a knock on us. And that's just how it always has been. One thing about being a Titans fan is generally just learning to take the good and the bad. And it's understandable we want to win every game we match up against every team with. We want to go out and we want to beat the Houstons and the New York Jets of the world, but sometimes they come out with nothing to lose and punch us in the mouth when we least expect it. But that's okay. The sun rose. Everything's fine. The only thing that's really damaged is our pride, but it's just something we'll have to continue to work at with what we have going on right now. And with all the situations that we have going forward, there's no reason to be down. We're still in first place. We still hold the number one seed as of right now. And yes, we do have a huge matchup against the Patriots with a lot of question marks going forward. But one of the things we have to remember is it's not necessarily one of these things where we know what's going to happen. Yes, there's some breaks against us. Injuries have been a big problem. And there's definitely a lot of questions we have. But I do have the feeling that we're going to start hitting our peak. I really feel that this team hasn't scratched the surface of how good they can be. And everything is working itself out to reasonably be the expectations that we want this team to exceed at. So going forward, I really just want to encourage everybody, don't eat too much of this up. Don't take too much stock into everything that goes forward. Yes, we'll break down last night's game with just a little bit of clarity, and I didn't want to get too much into it because right now the main focal point will be New England. And then we have a bye coming up. So generally that's going to be the biggest thing going forward as we prepare for this game, knowing if we can get our guys ready and just bounce back from everything that just transpired. I don't think it's the end of the world. A lot of people feel that it was the end of the world. But like I said, the sun rose. Everything will be fine. We're in the position to continue the success that we have. And it's ours to lose by our hand if we're not willing to fight for it. Throughout everything that we've had happen this season, there's been small little nicks and bumps in the road. But that's okay. That tests a team's merit. That tests a team's character. And you really have to just find yourself in a situation to understand that these things are a part of the adversity of the NFL. They're part of the camaraderie of it. You can't just think that you can cruise to just 9 straight wins or 8 straight wins. It doesn't work that way. Teams get better. Teams find ways to improve. But the biggest thing we have to remember is this is a marathon, guys. It's not a race. Tennessee had a nice stretch, especially when the gauntlet appeared. But we knew there were some setbacks that were going to happen, especially with injuries coming. But we'll get into that later. But first, I just want everybody to remember, take a deep breath. We'll get through this. We're going to have a good show tonight. I want you to just have a very clear mind. We'll just have a good time, and we'll just forget about the loss until we got to talk about it a little bit. And then we'll put all our focus and energy on New England. But first, let's hit the little screen and break down some of our top news today. And in our top news, some people are getting paid.
Show me the money! Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money!
Show me the money indeed. As it would appear, the New Orleans Saints have decided to make Taysom Hill a little bit more wealthy, giving him a 4-year extension that could be possibly up to about $95 million, depending on which position they decide to place him at, basing his pay worth to be somewhere between $40 million and $95 million between this extension. So really, is this New Orleans saying that Taysom Hill is going to be their quarterback of the future, or do they want to continue him as a role player, Swiss Army knife kind of type of guy? And we've seen him play quarterback, and I don't think he's going to be the long-term answer. I think this is a guy that Sean Payton feels is necessary in their offense to be successful. He's not the quarterback of the future. I don't think that that's really what's going to happen here. I think it's a situation where you've got a guy that Sean Payton likes to utilize in his offense just about everywhere on the field that he can. Quarterback-wise, I don't feel comfortable putting him in the long stretch of things as somebody as a long-term answer. You've got a guy that's talented enough to put all eyes on him when he steps on the field. But really along the lines, he doesn't fill the very look of what Sean Payton looks for in a quarterback. And generally, he's looking at a guy that's very capable of standing in the pocket and delivering the passes accurately. He has found ways to integrate guys who have good running skills. I think Jameis Winston, at times when he can run, has to, but really, he's a pocket passer. And if anything, Winston's had a lot of problems trying to integrate into Sean Payton's system, whereas he's looked good and he's looked bad, just like he did at Tampa Bay. So, with Hill getting this extension, to me, it's really along the lines, they need a guy that's a playmaker that's not named Alvin Kamara. Mark Ingram's not going to be there forever. And basically, they have to keep their guys in place. You know, Marcus Callaway, I feel, is a wide receiver that's going to continue to grow. And a few other guys I haven't mentioned really have a chance to be something special in Sean Payton's offense as long as he continues. It's the quarterback system and it's the quarterback position that really has me concerned going forward. Hill is not the answer at quarterback, but I feel with a playmaker of his caliber, you have to lock him down, and I think it's a good thing that the Saints did that. So going forward, it's a good move, and I really feel long-term, I think that helps them. But Hill's not the only one getting paid today. It would also appear that Denver wide receiver Courtland Sutton also has received a 4-year extension worth $60 million, and I believe it was about 30, maybe $32 million guaranteed. And a very strong move for Denver to lock in one of their playmaker receivers. One of them key being the guy that's really just helped things along, especially with Denver being in a season of a lot of question marks moving forward. You really have to wonder, is Teddy Bridgewater their guy at quarterback? But you know Sutton's become a reliable key piece in this offense. So it was only necessary that they had to lock down one of their veteran guys, especially knowing that the wide receiver market could be very well wide open with a lot of teams looking for guys trying to get them playmakers. And could this be another way of Denver saying they want to try and make a run at possibly Aaron Rodgers down the road? And it's not out of the question. Aaron Rodgers is very much going to be a free agent after the season's over with Green Bay. And Denver's been a very, very interesting scenario where he could possibly land. They've got a good set of draft picks to draft with. They've got some good wide receivers. Adding Sutton to the mix definitely keeps things in a fresh perspective. And Aaron Rodgers is possibly looking to make a Super Bowl run, and this team has a very, very good offense. I think if you add a few pieces in the draft and possibly look to add in free agency, it's not out of the realm of possibility. So you really kind of think maybe this is Denver's subtle way of locking down their playmakers so they could possibly make a run at other ones to come in. But we'll see as that goes. But also moving forward, and it also looks like Chicago Bears players are wanting to move forward. Matt Nagy's position as the head coach of the Chicago Bears is slowly moving away. And it's been reported now that it would seem that the players are not wanting to continue with Nagy any more than they have to. There's a lot of turmoil in the locker room going forward. So the big question is, how long can he survive till they finally give him the axe? And my question is, will he make it through the end of the month? I don't think he can. Not with so much turmoil between quarterbacks, switching between Fields and switching between Dalton. They've already lost one of their key defenders in Khalil Mack. And other than just a rotating carousel quarterback and just inconsistency, the Bears have already fallen to earth from what Matt Nagy brought to them, what was not 3 years ago. So perspective just leads that the players are going to just push until they can get him out. And it's not a surprise. You know, if you lose the locker room, you lose everything. And it appears this is what Nagy already has going forward. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he'll make it through the week. I don't know if he'll make it through next week. It's going to be a wait-and-see scenario. But if you lose the players, and in a league where you have to have the locker room and have your culture behind you, it looks as if the Chicago Bears have already decided to move on without him. But this will be interesting just to see what happens. And finally, in our breaking news, we've got a football game tonight, guys. And on ESPN Monday night, we've got the Giants and the Bucs. This will be a pretty good one. 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And it would appear that Saquon Barkley has been activated. It appears that Rob Gronkowski will be activated as well. So this is really going to be a very good matchup. I know, as hard as it is for me to go with the Giants in a lot of games because they've let me down, I still feel this will be a decent matchup. I still feel we might get a close game. But I'm just going to tell you right now, I think Brady bounces back. Easy win right here for the Buccaneers at this point. I think the Giants get some key pieces here, get some playing time, but I still feel they're not going to be able to take care of Tom Brady here. So it just seems Bucs safe bet here. I'll go a field goal. And we'll go to some of the comments real quick. Make sure we welcome everybody to the Power Hour tonight. Seeing our good friend Bryce Pratt. How you doing, buddy? Good seeing you on the show. And we got our buddy Lewis Chesney. Good seeing you, Lewis. Can't remember if I got to hear from you last week or not. It just seems like a lot going on. And mentioning golf, going to have bear for Thanksgiving. I hope so. I think with a lot of turmoil that the Bears are going through right now, maybe the Lions have a shot. They've gotten close. They just haven't closed the deal. And you really get the idea that it's very possible that they could do it. With Thanksgiving coming up and just on a short notice, we'll just see. I'm very interested, but we'll break that down in some of the other matchups. Bryce saying, I would take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers an ass beating. And once again, there you go, folks. Bryce Pratt giving you the official Power Hour ass beating of the game. That seems to be our common thread here. And I promise you, that's probably going to be a t-shirt if I can make it. So, Bryce, you might just make the Bryce Pratt ass beating award a t-shirt or something. I don't know yet. It's too much fun to be had. I really enjoy when you bring that down. We got another comment. Clowney Super Bowl. Why are we not giving Deontay Foreman more touches? And Clowney, we'll definitely get into that in our next segment. I definitely want to catch everybody, let them catch your breath and welcome them into the show. But the biggest thing is right now, we'll take a quick 30-second break. And when we come back, it's all right. We'll get through this. But I promise you, we'll get through this. We'll break down the Titans and the Texans. I promise it'll be like ripping a Band-Aid off. We'll get through it. So I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. We'll be back in 30. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me this Monday evening. We've got a jam-packed show. I'm glad everybody's come in tonight, and I want to remind you to don't forget, if you love the show, help it grow. We're on so many social platforms. Check us out on all of them on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at The Power Hour 615. Join us there. TikTok, we have daily videos and PowerPoints, my small videos, every Tuesday and Friday. Check those out, and don't forget, look for the little blue mic. That's where it's at. Well, alright guys, getting into this next one. I know we've had to go through this yesterday and just the agony and all of it. I promise we'll get through this quickly. No worries. It's going to be okay, I promise. Hitting the little screen, let's do it. And let's break it down. Turnovers. The big reason why the Tennessee Titans lost 22-13 to the Houston Texans in a rainstorm kind of game yesterday, Sunday afternoon. So the biggest thing to me, there were a lot of things that came up. And it seemed like there were just situations that really just made the game even more unbearable than it already was. I'll give credit where credit's due. When you ask the defense to stand up and try and deliver, they did more than they could have. They came in a situation and they fought as hard as they could, and they made plays when they had an opportunity to. Granted, they missed a few and gave Taylor an opportunity to extend it with his legs, or they possibly gave him just an opportunity to score, especially that one where he lunged over Hooker for the touchdown. That being said, it's very easy to see why they lost this game. It's no secret. We all saw what happened. Turnovers were what killed this game. And it's like Coach Vrabel said yesterday. You can't win in this league no matter what you do. If you turn the ball over 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, it's inevitable. You're not going to have a shot at this game unless you are playing outstanding defense. And as good as the defense was, the offense had every opportunity out there to try and make a play. Now, of course, we'll go to the main focal point here, and that's the 4 interceptions. Tannehill has been gotten a lot of flack over this. And personally, in a situation like this, you have to take a look at everything that went down. And first off, let's just do the obvious one. Weather was an issue. Grip on the football is an issue after a rainstorm. Even if it's not raining, you still have to worry about the ball not having grip on it. That is an issue. I've played, and believe me, a wet football is nothing to not look at or to overlook. So I will take that into consideration, weather being an issue, grip on the football being an issue. I'll also put into consideration Tannehill made mistakes and he forced passes in there that he had no business making. And we saw that on the sideline. Des Fitzpatrick was on there looking at him and they were discussing these things, and you knew they weren't on the same page. And I can't try and stress this enough, especially for a player that was cut before even all the preseason was done, that he's worked his way up to the actual squad, and he actually made a touchdown, which was very good for him, and I applaud his effort for doing that, but that short-term goal doesn't make for long-term success. There were mistakes he made. He missed routes. Tannehill overthrew him, and basically it's a timing thing. And the players have to be in sync. The wide receivers and the quarterback have to have that relationship to make that work. And we did not see that. Tannehill being the problem here, the biggest problem, but at that same point, you take into consideration of the things that I said. Injuries have been a bigger problem. Now, I know it's easy to make excuses, but you have to look at the bigger picture. We know what happened with the Jets game, and it was a lack of playmakers being out there, and it was a lack of execution, and a lack of guys doing their job. You can't go out there with limited experience between some of your guys that are third, fifth, and sixth down the depth chart. That's how it is. You know, not every quarterback is going to have that Tom Brady connection with their players or that Peyton Manning reception with their players. That's just not how it works. Some guys need practice. They need reps with these guys to get more comfortable with them. And I don't doubt that Tannehill's had that situation. And Louis Chesney says, I agree. And I very much, that's the point I'm trying to get at. And Louis Chesney also says mystery receivers. And that's the truth. You know, most of these guys, no one's heard of or seen since the preseason. And I'm sure we're going to see many more. I'm sure we're going to see Mason Kinsey come back up. I'm sure we're going to see a few guys come off waivers and end up on this team. I don't know the severity of what the A.J. Brown injury is. I know it's not serious as of right now, but I do know that he's possibly going to miss some time, especially if it being a chest injury, because they're not going to take that lightly. So we have to look at this in the perseverance of someone that is trying to build repertoire with these guys with a lot of their key pieces missing. As much as he is to blame, there's also little bits that he could have done better, but at the same token, it's something they can continue to work at and get better. Don't forget, we didn't lose anything major. We didn't drop out of first place. We lost a game. We lost a game we should have won, but it's not the end of the world. It's a very learnable game, and I really feel that in situations like this is where Mike Vrabel shines. Mike Vrabel finds his guys, especially after losses, and makes these teachable moments. So, for Tannehill, I appreciate the fact that he goes out there and he's admitting his mistakes. He didn't blame his receivers. He didn't blame anybody but himself. So the key component here is it's growing from it. And we're going to see as what transpires in practice and if that's what continues to move. Now let's just move right here. Once again, Tennessee dominated in this game in all categories. I look at time of possession, total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, first downs, sacks, total plays. What was the difference? That's very much the key, was the turnovers. But let's not forget, they also missed on trying to convert on fourth down twice. And that was killer. Nothing kills a drive like that if you can't convert a fourth and short. And they got stopped twice. So you have to understand, really, in retrospect, this was almost like losing the battle 7 times from a turnover perspective. Yes, they turned over on downs, but still, you have to take that in consideration. That still felt like 2 turnovers and 2 opportunities Tennessee left out there where they could have easily gotten points. And Bryce Pratt brings up a good point. I'm not blaming nobody for mistakes. The receivers could not get it open easy. And that's understandable. You know, there's mistakes on everybody's part, but they have to own up to those mistakes. The turnover thing was what killed this team. Pure and simple. And in these situations, you have to try and capitalize every time you have the ball. Tennessee should have won this game handily. But it just didn't work out that way. And it's a teachable moment. So moving forward, Tennessee is going to have to lock in and really go out there and show that they're for real. Of course the media is going to have to push things. Of course, everyone's going to basically come out and say, you know, this team isn't what we thought they were. Well, that may be the case, but that shouldn't matter. If that was the real situation here, then Tennessee would really be paying attention to what the media is saying. And really that would be a problem the whole way, especially moving forward in the season. But like I said, it's a learnable game. You can learn a lot from a loss more than you can from a win. And there's still mistakes that have to be fixed. Tannehill's turnover problem being one of them. And this is one of my favorite tweets of yesterday from our good friend Tic Tac Titans, saying a terrible game for the Titans, but I certainly don't think it's time to panic. The offense was a shell of itself with the injuries. The defense actually played perfectly fine. We know this is one of the best teams in the NFL. If healthy, just pray for recovery. And that was just my mindset, especially after the game was over. You can only ask so much for your team in situations like this. And everything was against them. Everything just seemed like it just fell apart as soon as the ball got kicked off. You felt that there's just bad energy, especially when Houston was moving the ball at will. They were working the outsides, and they didn't even gain that much yardage. It was a situation where Tennessee just shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. Lewis Chesney says, the Texans came to Nashville. I feel they played like it was their playoff game. Texas wanted it more, my opinion only. And I agree with that, Lewis. They had nothing to lose. Houston had nothing to lose. Even from a draft standpoint, they had nothing to lose. To them, this was just a game to go out and perform. And Tyrod Taylor went out and showed, he can handle the load. Granted, Houston had a lot of problems, but they didn't have to do much except get turnovers. And that was the difference maker. They capitalized on those turnovers. There you go. And bringing up another point, and I liked this tweet even well. So just bringing inspiration and just trying to keep you guys just on a steady level pace right here. So Army Vet 2822, and he found this for Titans for Life. And it said, I see a ton of Tannehill slander on Facebook and Twitter. He's not the sole reason we lost, but when you throw the ball over 50 times, this is what usually happens, and yes, he was a huge reason we lost. If you think he's trash because he threw 4 picks, then I guess any other quarterback who's thrown multiple picks in a game are trash too. Constructive, thought out, and intelligent criticism is fine, but just simply saying he's trash because of one bad game won't be tolerated here. And that has to be the mindset right now. Tannehill had a bad game, and in certain aspects, he started out bad, but he's worked his way around it. This game just didn't work that way. You have to remember Peyton Manning in 2007 against a really wishy-washy Chargers team threw 6 interceptions. And I remember the narrative of that game. People were saying his career was over. Like, this Peyton Manning, I don't know who this Peyton Manning is, but this is not the Peyton Manning that's going to go to the Hall of Fame. This is horrible. Everybody was beating up on him. And everything was fine after that. Great players have bad games. And make no mistake, Ryan Tannehill can be a great player. He's done great things at Tennessee. If he has the personnel around him, he can be successful. Injuries is a key component of what has hindered us. So the biggest thing going forward is just positive attitude and getting on pace and getting after the Patriots quickly. That'll be one of the key points we talk about later. But it's not the end of the world. I promise you. Guys have bad games. Tannehill owned it. He didn't duck behind anybody. He didn't point fingers. He owned it. And in situations like that, that's what has to happen moving forward. And like I said, nothing changed. Just a loss added. That was it. Everything else is kind of just right where it is right now. Except the Steelers, you got to bump them out and put the Chargers in the wild card right now, which I find appropriate. But as a division, nothing's changed. Right now we know we're an 8-3 team and we've got to improve. And the key component is we can't force turnovers like this. We've got to get our guys on the same level. We've beaten some damn good teams, guys. And the key thing here is excelling and pushing that narrative forward. The season's not over. It's a game that we lost that we should have won. But it's not the end. So moving forward, it's just one of these scenarios. We'll be okay. But we can't panic, and we can't lose sight of what's going to be important in the long run. Well, all right, guys. It's over, like I promised you. I know we didn't want to relive it, but hey, it's over. So no big deal. We're already getting ready for New England. Guys will be getting their rest and they'll be film studying. So the biggest thing is, let's just take it one at a time like we've been doing. No problem. We'll handle business the way it needs to be handled. And now we're going to catch our breath. And when we be back, I'm going to break down 3 components of what I think are the biggest reasons for injuries. Yes, there's blame to be put on these injuries, and I'm going to talk them out when we come back in 30 seconds. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. See you in a second. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me this Monday evening. Shout out to everybody who's here watching the show. It's great to have you guys here. No one likes coming in after a loss, but hey, you bounce back from these things. You live, you learn. The sun rises, the sun sets. We'll be okay. Shout out to you, Lewis. Thanks for joining us on the show. Know you got a lot going on, buddy, but I appreciate you for joining us every chance that you get. And I appreciate all of you for taking the time and coming and joining me on this show. And don't forget, if you love the show, help it grow. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. Check for the little blue mic. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell for more content, which every show comes out on Monday. And I bring you nothing but the best, because that's what I do. I strive to give you perfection. Well, all right, guys. Getting into our next segment. And the key component here is injuries. We all know that they've taken their turn and they punched us in the stomach. As much as we'd like to say, and as much as infuriating as it's been this season, it's been a narrative we've all had to deal with. So, what are the biggest reasons why this team has had so much trouble? Well, let's break it down and see it. Let's hit the little screen. So, and going to our first reason is simply training camp. Let's be real, training camp is a huge reason why a lot of these injuries excel. And you got to realize, when the collective bargaining agreement went in place in 2012, a lot of things changed, and some for the better, some for the worse. Training camp being one of these situations where you had teams where you were limiting on contact. A lot of guys were practicing in shells nowadays. And most of the real contact scene didn't really occur until the preseason games. And that's been a key component there as well. So looking at that, you already saw that the Titans were battling through training camp going forward when the summer started. We knew, especially with Julio coming down awkwardly, that seemed to be something that just sparked a very interesting scenario there, where people were wondering if he'd be ready for the season, which he was, but it's been something that's hindered him throughout. And the same goes for A.J. Brown and countless of other players. And it's really been a situation of guys trying their best to prepare for the regular season, but with limited contact, and in the situations where players have to try and limit themselves physically, coming into the regular season, you notice that these injuries that happen are very much lower body injuries. You have hamstring injuries, you have ACLs, you have MCLs. Basically, the injuries that happen the most from some of these players are leg related. And you can really go along the lines that maybe the NFL needs to try and find a way to better train some of these players. Now, It goes without saying, some of these guys are going to train the way they feels best for their body. But along those lines, in the last decade, the ACL and the hamstring injuries have doubled. And it's shocking. So, along those lines, you see guys getting those types of injuries, and it really hinders them. And a lot of these injuries are part of a smaller branch for what the Titans are going through. And they've got different varieties of them. You have hamstring, you have groins, you have, abdominals. There's a lot of different injuries this season. And I have no doubt that it's guys going a little harder in practice. And that lack of hard work that they put in training camp, it's the situation they have to put in the work, but where they're limited to do. So when game day comes, that's why you see a lot of guys getting injured. That's why when some of these practices occur, that's why you see a lot of these guys getting injured. So I definitely am going to point my finger at training camp right there. Moving on to our next one, and this is probably the easiest one, and it's the strength and conditioning coaches. And Frank Pariano, a strength and conditioning coach, which was part of Urban Meyer's team in 2008 with the Florida Gators, and also part of their basketball team, he's had success. But the main tenure that he stayed the longest was at Boston College. And I believe that was from 2013 up until 2018. And Boston College basically finished about 7-6 just about every season. And I know that's a lot to take from that, but at the same aspect, you have to understand, as a strength and conditioning coach and the head of the program, that your main job is to make sure that guys are 100% prepared for the season and to put their bodies through different types of workouts to make sure that these guys are playing to the highest competition that they can and stay healthy, of course. And these three men right here, they've got a very good track record. Brian Bell, coming from Houston, was a big part of the success that they had before coming to Tennessee. And Monterey Gee, another coach, I think his most successful tenure coming from the Seattle Seahawks, I think in the early 2010s. So each three of these men have had success of where they've been. My question is the program that they're running currently something that can be up to date and sustainable? And right now, that's a very sound no. The results are there for themselves. We see the injury report come out every day. And when game day comes down, there's usually around 6 to 7 guys that are inactive. And even more so, there's guys that are usually about 3 to 4 guys who are counted out. So I very much put this on the strength and conditioning coaches. This is something that needs to be addressed as soon as the season's finished. And Lewis Chesney brings up a good point. Football got faster. It did. But when something adapts, you have to find a way to adapt to it. And as a strength and conditioning coach, it's not just about lifting weights. You also have to get cardio in there. You have to strengthen other muscles that normally people don't think about. In the NFL, you have to maintain your body in every aspect that you can. This is the job of these three men. And so far, they have not done a good job. Now, it's not in my place to fire them. But I am saying the job that they've done, I really think these guys need to try and reevaluate their program. And this brings up another point. Maybe Amy needs to break out the checkbook, get new weights. That's possible. I'd say break out the checkbook and see what else is out there. It's not just about lifting weights and about running and calisthenics and all that. It's also about healing the body. You know, through all that aggressive working and through all that strenuous training, you have to recover just as hard as you have to train. And in today's modern sports medicine world, There are many great advancements in medicine and in healing. And I urge that these three gentlemen sit down with Coach Vrabel and discuss these going forward. There can't be any doubt going forward that this team should not have the ability to prepare themselves in any way they can to be healthy. Any way that these guys can get our guys healthy and on the field, that is their job. And if they keep it at a minimum, then they've done their job. But that's not the case here. So I'm hoping that this is something addressed in the future. And finally, this is the easiest one. It's Coach Vrabel. I understand the mentality that you have to train and you have to compete. I respect that. As someone who's played the sport, you have to understand athletes are competitors. There's always going to be that drive to push themselves, no matter what. Whether they're training, whether they're running drills, whether they're running routes. This is a career that they've chosen to be at their top of the game. But as the head coach, you have to know the limit. Because these athletes, just as he was, will push themselves until they can't give any more. And that's the key thing here. Some guys are going to give as much as they can, even when they get hurt. And if they get hurt, some of them are going to push through it, even to the point where they make it worse. And the player mentality of that, Mike Vrabel has to understand, and I know he knows, as intelligent as he is, and I don't doubt that for any bit of any of it, that this man has to slow his guys down. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Competition's fine. Going out there and having a competitive practice is fine. But at some point, you have to pull the reins in. And I hope that's something he's considering, especially where the games are getting down to the wire and the playoffs are coming even faster. So in the long run, I really hope Coach Vrabel, and as much as he's doing right now, I know there's circumstances with some of these guys that he is putting them out. We know Bud Dupree with the abdominal issue. We know Julio Jones with a hamstring issue. You know, guys are being put on the IR for a reason. But the biggest thing going forward is that we have to do what is necessary in the long run of things to try and get our guys to the playoffs at full strength, or as close to as possible. And as a head coach, that's very much also his responsibility. So I hope moving forward, and especially with a bye week coming, this is something that he can reflect upon, and it is something that he discusses with his staff. This has to be something that they need to try and calm down a little. I don't mind competitive practices. I do mind when it comes down to players getting hurt, and it's key guys we need. So moving forward, I hope it's a situation that we can try and rethink. Well, all right, guys. Breaking down that, it just seems like, yes, we are going to have to try and find some things that are going to have to help us down the way and get a little better, especially with these competitive practices. But I hope moving forward it's a situation we'll feel a little better going forward. It's downhearting and it's upsetting, especially looking at the injury report every day the way it is. But I hope that, especially not trying to look too far ahead, but next year it's a situation that is addressed and that there's a solution for everybody that will help the team move forward and not hinder it. And Lewis bringing up Mighty Mike sometimes looks dazed and confused, and well, sometimes, but at the same time, the man's forgotten more football than most of us will ever learn. So I don't question his intelligence. I just question, as a player, sometimes you have to reel your guys back. But that's just my take. All right, guys, let's catch our breath for 30 seconds. And when we come back, happy Thanksgiving. Week 12 on the boards. We've got 3 Thanksgiving games to go over and everybody else playing on Week 12. And, of course, the game we all care about, the Titans heading on the road to the Patriots. We'll catch our breath for 30 seconds and be right back. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Back in 30.
And are you going to have one on your Thanksgiving table?
Yeah, I'm going to have one. I have to bring it though, but because it. Oh, here's a picture of one.
Turducken.
Yeah,
picture. That is it.
And you see, you cut it like right down here. See, and then this is what it looks like inside. See, so you got turkey and duck, and then dressing, and then chicken.
Oh.
And then you just have to do it that way, or if any of that makes sense.
Now, can I get some hoisin sauce with that? That's unbelievable.
The Power Hour's on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me this Monday evening. And I'm also glad you got to see John Madden karate chop a turducken. So, happy Thanksgiving, an early happy Thanksgiving from me to you. I hope you travel safely. I hope you have a great time with your family and friends. And please, if you do take in libations this holiday season, please have a game plan to be safe. Make sure someone gives you a ride home or catch a ride home. You've got a lot of life to live. Don't do anything to hinder it. So please have a safe and fun Thanksgiving. All right, guys. Getting to it, we've got a Week 12 schedule to break down, and it's a Thanksgiving kind of week. So let's go ahead and throw up Week 12 here and get on the little screen. And away we go. Happy Thanksgiving to y'all, and let's break down these games going forward. So looking at it, our first Thanksgiving game of the week on Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving if you're rewatching this. 12:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox, the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. This is the pressure bowl right here. So something's got to give. Either Chicago's going to win a game and Matt Nagy survives another treacherous beating from the media, or Detroit finally gets the elusive win to add in between all the losses and tie that they have. And that's the biggest question right here. Oh, Lewis. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And I love my big head too. If I can get it on there. Yep. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I love my big head, so that's all right. This one was tough for me, but I got a really good feeling. The Bears, as better as they are at everything else right now, I'm still going with the Bears. Detroit just historically has never brought the heat on Thanksgiving, and I don't expect it now. So I'll go with the Bears. Touchdown win right here. Bryce right here will go with the Bears in a close one. I think a touchdown's being fair for a close game, so we'll go from there. And then our next Thanksgiving game, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS, the Dallas Cowboys and the Las Vegas Raiders. And after an embarrassing loss that the Cowboys had against the Chiefs, I think it was a game they were looking ahead, and it definitely showed, but I think they bounced back here. I think the Raiders continue to plummet, and like a quick grease fire, they're burning out quickly. Dallas wins this one. I will give the Cowboys a 6-point lead here at home. Pretty easy. And our final Thanksgiving game, 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And this was a tough one with the Bills and the Saints. I genuinely had a hard time trying to pick one with this, because both teams are at a free fall right now. And, I mean, Buffalo's can bounce back. I don't have any doubt about that. They're in better shape than what the Saints are. But it's a really, really big punch in the stomach that the Bills have had the last few weeks. So I will go with the Bills, but I am going to only give them a 2-point win here. I'm very, very hesitant. I think it's going to be a struggle with the Saints defense. They're no slouch. And if they get Alvin Kamara back, it's definitely going to make things a little more difficult. So I feel the Buffalo Bills get this, but only by 2 points. And from everybody else, Bryce says he'll go with the Cowboys on this very big game for the Cowboys. Once again, another Bryce Pratt ass beating is in place. And Lewis has picked the Detroit Raiders and the Aints as his picks. Not bad. But I'm still confident with mine. Maybe not the Bills, but confident enough. And then our 1 o'clock Eastern matchup on Fox on Sunday, slate of games. We have what will be a very, very physical contest between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is Indy's huge test right here. Yes, they came out, and yes, they swung against the Bills, but Tom Brady is a different monster. And yes, Jonathan Taylor is running wild, but can he sustain it? And especially against the Buccaneers' defensive front that I feel is going to get really better as the season progresses. So, right here, I'm going with the Bucs. I think Taylor gets his yards, and I think Carson Wentz has a decent game passing. But Tom Brady and the defense are the difference maker here. They're going to handle business, and believe me, I will give the Buccaneers at least a 4-point win here. Going forward to our next 1 o'clock matchup on Fox. And of course, it's an NFC East matchup between the two division rivals of the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. And really, as bad as these teams can be, I've always found this game to have just intrigue. So, as bad as they are, I still feel that this game usually puts up some pretty impressive matches. Usually get some pretty good highlights out of it. And I think right here, I will go with the Philadelphia Eagles on this one. I definitely feel a lot more comfortable with them, and the Giants have continually let me down. So I am really just a little more confident going with the Eagles on this one. I will give the Eagles a field goal here. So to me, that seems the safe bet. Lewis agrees with me on the Bucs and the G-Men. I don't know. The Giants have let me down all year. Every pick that I have had them on, they've either lost, and the pick that I pick against them, I lose. So I am 0 for 12 picking the Giants. So it has not been a good relationship with the two of us. So I will go with the Eagles. Field goal. And then a 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern matchup. On Fox, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Atlanta Falcons. And really, this is basically a matchup of draft position. So, do I feel that the Falcons are better than the Jaguars? Honestly, yes. Do I feel the Falcons will beat the Jaguars? I would say a very hesitant yes, but I still feel the playmakers that Atlanta has are definitely a lot better than the ones the Jaguars has. So I'll give Atlanta a touchdown win here. Jacksonville continues to plummet to earth. I like the Falcons in this game. And moving on to our next matchup. 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS. Oh my God, it's the two teams that beat the Tennessee Titans. I'm sorry, guys, I couldn't resist. But yes, it's the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. This one's interesting, but at the same time, I feel that it's very possible Houston can sneak a win here. My question is, which defense is going to be the difference here? And I think that's what's going to win the game. So, moving on this one, I would have to go... I'll go with the Jets. I like their defense. I think their defense is going to be the key here. I think you have a very low-scoring game, and I'm talking single digits. So I will go with the Jets. I will call this my upset of the week. Even without consistent quarterback play, I will go with the Jets and lock it in here. Lewis goes Jacksonville because they know Arthur. Bryce goes the Jets. And I believe Lewis will go the Texans. So, okay. I just feel comfortable about the Jets' defense. I will roll with them. And then a 1 o'clock Eastern matchup on Fox. We have the Miami Dolphins and the Carolina Panthers. The Dolphins are just a continuing enigma. And the Panthers lost a game that they really should have won with just inconsistency. So the biggest thing right here is it's like, do I feel confident enough Cam Newton can bounce back and help a Panthers team that just seems to just be wishy-washy every week? And against this Miami team, I feel confident in that, so I will go with the Panthers. I will go with the Panthers in this one. I think Cam Newton bounces back. I think Miami just has too many question marks, and at this point, they're really going to have to try and see what they can do moving forward. So Panthers, I'll go touchdown. In a 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern matchup on CBS, we have a great AFC North battle between the Steelers and the Bengals. And this is one that these two teams could be vying for playoff position. And the big question right now is, who's going to be the team with the hot hand? And one of them's going to heat up. So, it's another tough one, but I will go with the Bengals. I feel comfortable with Joe Burrow. A young Joe Burrow right now is going to play better than an aged Ben Roethlisberger. And Roethlisberger continues to regress. I just didn't like what I saw against the Chargers, even though they kept it a close game. I feel Joe Burrow's the difference here. Jamar Chase continues to impress me as a rookie. I will go with the Bengals in this one. I will give the Bengals 6. And then moving on to our next matchup on a slate of afternoon games, 4:05 Eastern on CBS. The Los Angeles Chargers coming off a big win, matching up against the Denver Broncos. And guys, this is my lock of the week. I like what the Chargers have done. I like that they're getting hot at the right time, and I think they'll continue to get that pitcher and move forward. It's going to be a battle between the AFC West. If the Chargers continue to do what they do, I think the matchup between Kansas City that they have is really going to be very intriguing down the road. So, I'm throwing my lock of the week on this one. Chargers handle the Denver Broncos. No problem here moving forward. In a 4:25 Eastern matchup on Fox, pretty good matchup of NFC foes, maybe even possibly an NFC Championship matchup preview. We've got the Green Bay Packers and the LA Rams. And at this moment right now, I feel very confident in Green Bay, even though they've had a lot of problems. And the same can be said for LA. But the thing is, Aaron Rodgers definitely just handles business no matter where he goes. And at this point right now, Green Bay definitely starts playing really good football, especially in mid-November to December. So I will roll with the Packers here, and I will give them a field goal to win it. And catching up on some of our other picks, Lewis goes with the Fish as the Dolphins. He'll go with the Steelers over the Bengals and the Rams. And Bryce goes with the Bengals. So, good picks. Moving on. On our next game, 4:25 matchup on Fox, we'll have the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. And there's a lot of question marks for both these teams, and it's really going to come down to who I think is going to be the more consistent quarterback. And as much as I hate to say it, but I feel this is what's going to transpire here. I like the 49ers in this one. I think their playmakers are the difference here, and I think the defense holds out just enough to keep the Vikings at bay. And thank you very much, Lewis. Fun show. Love it. And love having you all here. And I will continue to keep doing these shows as long as you guys show up. And then, of course, on our 8:20 p.m. Eastern matchup on NBC, Sunday Night Football, great AFC North matchup between the Browns and the Ravens. And this right here is going to be a slobber knocker because these teams have two very decent defenses and two really good offenses. So the key thing here is, who do I feel is going to be the difference maker? And I'll go Ravens. I like the Ravens here. I think even though with their defense, I feel a lot more confident in the Ravens' playmaking ability than I do the Browns right now. I just feel, especially with the report of Baker Mayfield coming out and basically just saying the booing doesn't affect him. If he continues to lose, fans are going to let him have it. And I think mentally he's kind of showing just a little bit of weakness as somebody who's like getting defeated, but he's not going to let it go. So Lewis says Lamar runs wild. I agree. I think that's going to be the difference. I think that's what wins this game. I think the Ravens defense in some way is a little bit better than Baltimore, so there's the difference. And then our 8:15 matchup on ESPN, Monday Night Football, the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington Football Team. And really, to me, this just isn't much of a matchup, but Washington has also been an enigma. Coming off a pretty big win against Carolina, I feel they could be a potential upset, but I'll have to go with the Seahawks here. I feel Russ is going to get his wheels under him, and they'll handle business. As good as Washington was last week, I don't think they're going to have that kind of energy to continue moving on the Seahawks. And, of course, guys, coming up 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS, it's the bounce-back game when everybody's going to be looking at the Tennessee Titans hit the road, going to Foxborough, Massachusetts, and facing the New England Patriots. Before hitting the bye week, it's time to reroute the ship. Tennessee Titans at the New England Patriots. And everybody right now, here's the key thing. And I'm going to break this down very, very easily. The biggest thing right now that I have a lot of confidence in, Mike Vrabel gets his team ready after a loss. Go back any loss that the Tennessee Titans have had, they always bounce back. If there's one thing Mike Vrabel knows how to do well, it is motivating his guys, especially in a tough matchup, no matter who they go up against. So you can call me a home run hitter guy. You can call me the root for the home team guy. I don't care. I always am going to go with stats, and stats say Tennessee has always bounced back after tough losses. This is a great matchup to do it before heading into the bye and get a little confidence going. I like the Titans on the road right here. I believe Tennessee gets the win right here. We'll call it 24-21. Lewis Chesney, yep, we bounce back, tighten up. And that's what it is. It's going to be the bounce back game. Mike Vrabel has a great resume against losing against teams and then bouncing back after that loss. So, believe me, they'll be ready. It's Bill Belichick out there in the Patriots. There's not much more you have to get ready for. That's what you have to do to win in this league. Right now, they're the hottest team, and I'm sure Tennessee is licking their chops to get out there and prove people wrong. That's going to be the motivational factor. Well, all right, guys. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight on the show. It means so much that you continue to support us. It means a lot that you'll watch on like all these platforms that are available. And just your support and your comments, they mean so much to me as we continue to see this show grow on all our platforms. And it just shows to show, if you have the drive and desire to do something, put yourself out there. It's really worth trying. You know, you don't have to be perfect in everything that you do. But if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to do it with passion and showing your fellow fans out there that you care as much as they do and you want to see the success of your team just as much as they do, then it's worth putting effort in. And I enjoy looking forward to these Mondays. I will never get tired of getting ready for these shows. I appreciate all the love and support that you've given to me. And of course, before we sign off, I want to tell you, please have a safe and a fun Thanksgiving with all your friends and loved ones. Please, if you do tend to go out and have a few libations, please do it responsibly. Have a backup plan. Have a designated driver. It's important to make sure that you're safe, not only going out, but coming back. So, I thank you once again. I will see you next Monday. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. So, from Michael Bishop with the Power Hour, have a great night and an even better tomorrow. Take care and tighten up. Thank you for watching the Power Hour. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more content. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615.